Government of Karnataka, Department of Public Instruction, District Institute of Education and Training, Tumkuru, Black Resource Center, Chikkanaikanalli.
Hello, my dear students. I hope you are well in your home. Keep wear a mask and maintain social distance when you are go out home. Myself, Vankar Murthy KL, Assistant Teacher in English, GHPS Nandeli, Chiknaganli Taluk. Dear students, in this session, I am going to deal second language English 7th standard. So dear students, in this session I will choose poem 1, The Gymnastic Clock. You know, my dear students, in the olden days and even now in the village, people wake up in the morning by listening to the crows of the clock. How do you wake up in the morning? Yes, my dear students, in the olden days, people wake up in the morning by listening to the crows of the clock. But now modern days, the people uses such devices as ringer. So, ringer is a device which helps human being to wake early as possible. What if Ringer could actually walk and talk like us? What would it do? What would it say? These are all information let us see in this poem. Before going to the poem, let us know about the poet of the poem. Poet name Mary Caroline Davis. Profession 19th century poet. Background M.C. Davis was born in Sprague, Washington in early 1890s. She attended University of California, Berkeley for 1 year where she won numerous awards. Dear students, are you familiar with the word gymnastic? Yes, gymnastic means making exercises. In this picture, you are noticing that the childs are making exercise with several angles. I hope you are doing exercises in schools and your homes. It is good for health. In this lesson, we will read a poem about a clock that has a different way of waking people up. Dear students, now I am going to read this poem. Please open your book and look at the poem. The Gymnastic Clock, written by M.C. Davis. The little clock is friends with me. It talks as plain can be, and says each morning as it rises, now don't forget your exercise. Both hands above your head, you know, then lower them very slowly so. Oh, don't get tired and stop that way. I exercise like this all day. Right in its face, then I say, pooh, I wouldn't boast of it like you, but I can swing my arms round too. And so the clock then looks at me, and I look back, and I and he. Each single morning when we rise, just exercise and exercise. So, dear students, read once yourself and try to understand this poem. So, let us know about new words. Gymnastic, to make physical exercises. Plain, simple or clear. Forgot, put away from memory. Tired, to make weary. Boast, to talk proudly about yourself. Let us analyze the poem. Stanza first. The little clock is friends with me. Here, me refers to the person filling us this poem. This person is called the speaker. The speaker is telling us that he and the clocks are friends. It talks as plain can be. Plain means simple or clear, and says each morning as it rises. And here the clock says the poet, the clock is rise every morning as much as possible. Now don't forget your exercise. The clock says to poet, now don't forget your exercise. I am doing exercise very well, but you don't forget your exercise. Keep maintain the exercise in yourself. In this stanza, the speaker is telling us that the clock is his friend. It reminds him clearly every morning to do his exercises. Children, I know what you are thinking of. A clock is a non-living thing. How is it waking up and talking in this poem? Yes, my dear students, the poet has given the clock human-like qualities in the poem. Sometimes writers give real life qualities to non-living things. This makes the writing more interesting and adds to the imagination of the reader. Let us move on to stanza second. Both hands above your head, then lower them very slowly so. Oh, don't get tired and stop that way. I exercise like this all day. In this paragraph, the clock is trying to say about how I am doing exercises. Both hands. Here, both hands refers to two needles of the clock. By its hands, the clock is referring to the needles that shows us the time. They are called the minute hand and the another one is hour hand. These hands move up and down all day without stopping as they show us the time. Here, so is sometimes used to say just like this. Here, it is possible that the clock is showing how to lower the hands and telling the speaker to do the same. In the line third, oh, don't get tired and stop that way. Here, oh is the sound one makes when they are tired and breathe out hard. Here, the clock is trying to say about way of the exercise of the clock to the poet. Here, in this stanza, the clock is telling the speaker how to move his hands for exercising and saying that he does this all day. How does the clock move its hands to exercise all day? Dear students, I am already told you the clock by hands. The clock is referring to the needles that shows us the time. They are called the minute hand and another one is hour hand. The hands move up and down all day without stopping as they are showing us the time. Next, we are moving on to stanza third. Right in its face, then I say, Pooh, I wouldn't boast of it like you, but I can swing my arms round too. Here in this stanza, the poet repeating to the clock. Here, right in its face, then. Face here refers to the part of the clock where we see the time. It is called the face of the clock. The poet tries to answer to the clock and stands with the front of the clock and says that I wouldn't boast of it. Here means the poet is don't boast like the clock, but a poet also can do the exercise. He can swing my arms round too. Here the poet also do exercises with using the his hands. Here boast means to talk a lot about your own abilities or achievements. Here, in this stanza, the speaker is looking at the clock and saying that even he can swing his arms around like the clock, but he won't boast of it the way of the clock. Here, the poet answered the clock. The poet also doing exercises with using his hands, but I am not boasting like you. Here in the clock, how the exercises in the same way, the poet also doing exercises with using his arms around the body. Next, we are move on to the stanza fourth. And so the clock then looks at me, and I look back, and I and he. Here, the speaker and the clock look at each other in understanding. Every morning, both of them wake up and exercises. In the finally, the clock was look at the poet, and the poet also look at the clock, and both of them wake up as early as possible in the morning and doing exercises. Here, in this poem, the poet says the little clock in his room is his friend. The clock asks him frankly each morning to do exercises by stretching your arms above his head and then bring them down very slowly. He further asks him to keep doing these exercises without stopping. The clock tells the poet to be like it. It always keeps its hands moving up and down. Later, Clark was surprised at the poet's reply. So each morning, the poet and the clock keep looking at each other. The clock does its exercises by moving its hands, and the poet does the same. So, my dear students, I hope you are understanding well this poem. So, dear students, now the time for home assignments. Read the poem again and try to understand what each word, line, and stanza means. Dear students, make it assignment yourself.